MysticArts, the incredibly successful D&D YouTuber, has entered the realm of D&D magazine publication through the Broadsheet. On his Patreon, the Broadsheet is chock full of guns, political intrigue, and a whole bunch of great world building that lets you know that we are no longer in Kansas. Let's take a look at what makes the Broadsheet so great, and let's see what the future holds for this incredible zine. Well, starting off, immediately we're already assaulted with some fantastic art here. So let's take a look. What is the Broadsheet? Well, the Broadsheet tells you what it's all about. What's in the Broadsheet? In this issue number 1 here, we're getting information about the world. We're getting information about the city that is going to be the bulk of what the zine is supposedly going to be about. But also, very importantly, is we're getting an introductory and adventure. And the intro adventure is a fantastic approach to not only this particular setting, but also just very importantly is it's just a fantastic adventure by itself. So let's take a look at what's going on throughout the rest of the zine. Before we even get into the world building aspect here, we can see that when you create your players, you should have these kind of thoughts in mind of what is your profession? Are you the working class? Are you the middle class, upper class? Does your character use guns? If so, why? Is your character a magical user of some kind? If you are a magical user, you're supposed to be affiliated. You're supposed to basically be documented because magic is a little bit of a taboo. I really like all these little bit of tidbits of, the character building of the world building because it makes you feel like you're not in the Forgotten Realms. I think that's a problem I see a lot of settings have is they all look like a different little spin on the Forgotten Realms. Thankfully, this is far, far removed from that. This definitely feels like its own unique setting. And as we move on, we get the introductory adventure here, the Night Train. So the Night Train is, as I mentioned before, just a fantastic little adventure, not only by itself, but also introductory to this setting. This adventure is all about you hopping on a train to head to the big town, the big city. And along the way, you are in the middle of a little scuffle of two political factions making their way to try and get a artifact. And that artifact is Bad News Bears. And if your players get themselves involved in it, side with one faction, side with the other, try and take this artifact for themselves, do whatever. There's a lot of different ways that this adventure can shake up, and it's fantastic for that. It's fantastic for introducing them to these factions. You get to meet some cute NPCs along here. And also, very importantly, is this adventure is just so good for its presentation. So what's going on in this adventure? You have 2 hours. You hop on this train, and in 2 hours, you will arrive at your intended destination. Along the way, you're going to be picking up some people in the previous little town, and that's where the adventure is really going to be kicking up here. But what's really great is we get all the information about what's going on in this train. We get maps. We get information about every single little car here. But then we also get a detailed out information about all the NPCs involved, a little stat blocks for the people that are relevant, and also very, very importantly is we get a timeline of events. That is so key to making this adventure stand out so well, is because this is using the old school philosophy of 10 minutes equals 1 dungeon turn, and that really helps make the adventure flow. It makes your characters have meaningful impact on their choices. Oh, if we do this, that's going to take some time. Oh, if we do that, it's going to take some time. If they try and, move from train to train, if they try and look around for areas, if they try and open up this magical artifact, all these things are taking up time throughout this adventure. And thankfully, throughout this adventure, we get trackers of every single one of these 10-minute little adventure turns. What's going on here? Who's moving where? And all those things make this adventure feel real. It doesn't feel like everyone's just waiting around in a room waiting for the adventurers to walk in and then they fight. No. At 6:50, Lucinda goes to the luggage. At 7 o'clock, you arrive at the first destination to pick up some new people along the journey. The list goes on and on. And it's just so good for creating this organic environment for your players to interact with. And the way your players approach how they handle this adventure is going to really drastically, show what kind of characters they are, but also very, very importantly is going to lay the foundation for the future campaign as your characters explore around the city. What factions have they run amok with? Did they steal the artifact? Did they get in trouble with the police? The list goes on, and it's just oh so great in that regard. Now moving on further, in this zine we get the Argent Sector. So basically the idea with these zines is every single one of these zines is going to show off a new area of the city. This is a massive, massive metropolis city, and there's many little, areas, think of places like LA or New York or wherever. It's one big city, but then in these cities there's these individual little locations, and we get some fantastic detail about places of interest within these areas. And also very cool is we also get some fun little ideas on adventures throughout. So looking through, we get to see the populations of these areas, and then if we go to, let's take a look at the Bandit's Lair. The Bandit's Lair is a novelty establishment, is the most popular pub and inn in the Argent Sector, and we get some info about all this little areas here. And then also there's an adventure hut, Rats in the Cellar. It turns out that there's rats in the cellar, but guess what? You got to have your own little fun spin on the rats in the cellar trope. So here we get swarms of rats, giants of rats, and a were-rat boss. Fun times. Also, something important to note about the world building too is not only is there all these guns, there's these trains, of course, but also there is actually, I think, a really good change that makes this feel, once again, not like Forgotten Realms, but this is its own little setting, is that you are not using coins in this setting. You're using banknotes. One banknote is worth 1 copper, respectively. So it definitely makes it feel different to not have to lug around coins. It gives a certain, different type of feel. Also, as we're going to be seeing here, is the amount of banknotes that you're going to have to acquire to do anything is also very, showing off of the world, because the country that you're in is in a recession. Your country had just lost a war. Part of the country has seceded. So, the feel of this world is oozing through not only its text, but also through, character-facing implications and mechanics. Further on, we get the introduction to Atroxia, and through this, we're getting a sense of what's going on in the world, all of the machinations, all the powers that be, and also, very importantly, is some ways on how you can structure a campaign. What are the themes of it? Is it going to be about the industrial side? Is it going to be about the fear of the arcane? Are we going to see campaign arcs all about the dragons of ages past that are trying to return? Are we going to see the forgotten gods trying to reclaim their former glory by using, enslaving people to make them do some sort of machination to make the gods feel lived in again? I really like the world building here. You can fit just like right here, right? We're seeing the dragons of ages past, the diabolism of the rise. All these things are only a few sentences, but that right there shows off huge implications of the world, and it doesn't need to be just grandiose, large pages of nonsense. Just by saying the dragons have ruled in these lands for longer than humans, and they want their kingdom back, that tells me right there the dragons have lost their power and they want it back. Like, we don't need this whole elaborate 50-page backstory on the dragons. We just need to know, oh hey, the dragons, they want to get back in power. How are they going to do it? Right? Like that. Just simple stuff like that really elevates this, in that it's not wasting my time. It's not wasting space on the pages. It's doing exactly what it needs to do, and it's doing it well. We get a history on the area, a whole bunch of great stuff going on. The factions, as mentioned before, in that introductory adventure, you're interacting with 2 of the factions. One of them is tied to the government, one is not. A whole bunch of cultists and stuff. A whole bunch of great times all around. We get a regional map. We get a map of the area, nations involved, cultures. All these cultures are great because we get a whole bunch of little, names of what would be appropriate for the various peoples, and just all this great stuff all around. And, once again, just like, I really like just how incredibly, impactful the minimal amount of text is in this product. Further on, we get an appendix for your monsters. They do exactly what they need to do. Something important to note is in this system, or in this particular setting, is that guns are of heavy usage. Guns are used by many peoples, and the guns do various amounts of damage, but also very importantly is guns per traditional 5e ruling is that you shoot once, and then next turn you have to reload, and then you got to shoot again. Unfortunately, I find that 5e has that issue with guns in that they're not impactful enough to warrant skipping a whole turn because turns are so incredibly impactful in 5e. A whole bunch of the monsters have a rapid reload trait of some kind where they get to reload their firearms without taking an action. And that's all well and good. But ultimately, that's just a problem I have with the 5e is that each turn is too impactful, which is why I typically like, more simpler systems where each turn isn't as super duper impactful, so you can have these mechanics like guns. But thankfully the guns here can do some various things, and that's all well and good. A whole bunch of monster stat blocks for your everyday needs, magic items, one of which is that magical artifact that you retrieved, or could potentially have retrieved from the adventure. And we get a credits little scene here for all of the people involved in making this product. So what are my thoughts on the broadsheet by MysticArts, available on MysticArts Patreon? I think it's a fantastic start. I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen in the future with this product because this city needs more exploring. We need more adventures, which they have stated in the text there that there's going to be more adventures throughout these zines, showing off more of the world and showing off more of the political aspects of all the factions involved. And I think that this setting, this is worth exploring, and I want to see more of it. For me too, this is also a really big, nail in my coffin of trying to start up my own zine because I definitely want to get in the production aspect. I started a zine ages past, but then unfortunately life just hit me like a freaking truck, and I had to sideline that for a while. But I've been cooking up some stuff, so hopefully I can start working on my own zine here and publishing that out. But this is definitely a fantastic, showcasing of what a zine should look like. The presentation is fantastic. There's no spillover text at all. That is something very, very important. Is the presentation is really, really good throughout this product. Everything fits on a page, and that's honestly I think how all professional products should be. Is I don't want to have to flip through pages to see what I'm currently reading in that moment. Fantastic art throughout the product. Just it looks well. It's not the 5e dress, which I think is also good because I personally don't like the standard 5e dress template of everything, But thankfully, it all looks great. It all comes together incredibly perfectly, and good job all around by the MysticArts team for this incredible stuff. So tell me, do you want to add a little bit of political intrigue and guns and trains and all sorts of city life machinations going on in your campaign? Do you want to make magic a little taboo in your campaigns? I certainly do, because if I run a 5e adventure, unfortunately, a lot of times everyone's magic because there's too many freaking magic casters. So making magic a little bit more on the taboo side, I think, is a great refresher, a great reprieve from the norm. And besides the listed stuff in this particular zine, what are you looking for in a zine besides adventures? Are we looking for character options, for DM options, for tables? What are we looking for in zines? I want to hear all about it. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, doing all of that great stuff. And I cannot wait to see you all in the next one. I know that's probably one of my biggest struggles as a DM is I can make a whole bunch of player options and monsters and whatever the frick else, but definitely world building is something that I just really haven't delved too deeply into. And for those of you that don't know, I'm currently making my own TTRPG and doing all of that, but I'm more focused on the system itself, and I haven't delved too deeply into the world building aspect, but that's definitely something that I need to take a look at, and I think that MysticArts here has highlighted a fantastic approach to world building and not making it too complicated and making it nice and presentable.